Hello guys, welcome back to Transformation Academy, and in this video we're going to be talking about reality market structure. But before we dig into that, I just want to give my appreciation to subscriber number 5 all the way from Zambia. Thank you so much, you are much appreciated. Okay, now, and also before we begin, to all those who just watched this video now, I do urge you to give a like, give a subscription, and then I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so let's begin. So in the last couple of videos, we were talking about basic market structure. So basically, we were talking about how to determine the price direction, whether it's bearish or bullish, and then we talked about how to identify a change of character, a change in the trend of price, right? And we did all that. So I'm not gonna dive into this, but today we are going to be looking at reality market structure because rarely does the market move like this in this simple, basic form of just creating lower lows, lower highs, and then higher highs, higher lows. No, it doesn't. Price moves like this in this sort of confusing way, but once we are done in this specific lesson, you are going to be able to understand what it means and how to react to it. Okay, cool. So let's begin. So right now, the first thing that I want you to understand is swing structure. What is swing structure? So swing structure is basically the significant price movement that creates a range or a trend, right? So last week we were talking about basic market structure. We were talking about the significant price movement that creates the bearish trend and also that creates the bullish trend. All right. So when we were talking about lower lows and lower highs, these are the significant price movements that are creating the bullish or bearish trend. Okay, and then here you can see that price is a little bit confusing, right? Because price is bearish here, bullish here, bearish here, bullish here, bearish here, bullish I guess here, and then it's hard to understand, but I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. Okay, so before we begin, you can tell that price has its minimum. There's little ranges inside. There's little lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs, lower lows, and then higher high, higher lows, higher high, higher lows, higher high. All right. But then within these little ranges, there's what we call the swing structure, the overall direction that the market is moving in. Okay, and the overall direction is this. All right, we've got a higher high right here, and then we've got a lower low, right? And then we've got a lower high, then we've got a lower low, and then we've got a lower high, and then we've got a lower low, and then we've got a lower high, and then we've got our lower low, and then we have our higher high, right? Change of character here, right? And then we have our higher low because this low is higher than this low. And then we have our higher high, higher low, and then higher high. Okay, so as you can see here, even within these little price directional biases, there's this protected high, and then we've got our second protected high, we've got our third protected high, and then we've got our fourth. Then this fourth high was not protected, it was violated, indicating what? Indicating a change of character. Okay, cool. So another thing, so after after we see these, right, I want you to understand that in this specific scenario, we've got a high, right? We've got a high, and then we have our low, right? So I want you to understand that whatever is happening in between the high and the low, whatever this is, everything happening inside. This is your internal structure. This is the order flow. This is the current price movement that's happening like right now. This is the current flow of orders happening between a swing high and a swing low. Okay? So understand this. I want you to take this high to this low, right? As your 4-hour price movement, right? As well as from the low to this high, right? I want you to take it as your what? As your 4-hour price movement. Okay, cool. And then I want you to take whatever's happening inside as your M15 price movement, right? The lower lows and the lower highs and the higher highs and the higher lows. I want you to take them as your what? As your M15 price movement. So I want you to understand that when the 4 hour is coming in to give you the lower low, right? The M15 is going to be giving you these little price movements inside, right? The lower lows and the lower highs, lower low, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, lower low. Okay? Then when the 4 hour decides to come in for a pullback, a retracement, the M15 is going to realign itself with the 4 hour, and then it's going to turn bullish. Okay? It's going to violate the previous lower high, and then we're going to have a higher high, and then higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Okay? And then what's going to happen? And then when the 4 hour now wants to give you a new lower low, that means a violation of this low. The M15 is going to do what? The M15 is going to realign itself with the 4 hour again. And then this time it's going to realign bearish. Okay? Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and lower low. Okay? And then what happens? In this break of this previous lower low, price gave us a new what? Price gave us a new lower low, and then price gave us a new high reprotected. Okay? And then when and then what happens next? And then the 4 hour now wants to give you a new what? A new lower high. So when the 4 hour now wants to go in for the new lower high, the M15 is gonna what? The M15 is going to realign bullish. Okay, so that means we're gonna go from a series of lower lows, lower highs to a series of higher highs and then higher low. Okay, another realignment to the upside. So what does this tell you? This tells you that the M15 is always going to realign itself according to the overall direction of the 4 hour. Okay, so that means that for you to have um an unshakable directional bias, you need to work with higher time frames. But then when it comes to actual trading, to actually hit this leg or hit this leg, you need to go on the M15 because that's where you get the confirmation that now the 4 hour is switching what to give you a new what a new low. Okay, so let's explain this. So the 4 hour now wants to go in for what? For a new lower high. What does the M15 do? M15 realigns, like we said here, change of character, new higher high, right? And then we have a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Okay, and then higher low, and then higher high. Okay, cool. And then what happens when the 4 hour wants to give you a new lower low? How are you gonna know that the 4 hour wants to give you a lower low? You know that the 4 hour wants to give you a lower low when the M15 switches bearish, right? From a series of lower lows and from a series of higher lows and higher highs to a series of lower lows and lower highs, right? Another change of character in alignment to the 4 hour directional bias. Okay. And then sometimes price doesn't give you the realignment that you were looking for, right? Because here we got the realignment, 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 but here we didn't get the realignment, right? But then here we got the realignment, right? When the 4 hour was coming in to give you a new what? A new lower low, the M15 came from a series of higher lows, higher highs to a series of lower lows, and then lower highs, and then price went in to invalidate, to violate the previous lower low, giving you a new lower low. Okay, so we just unraveled the bearish trend and dissecting it from two different perspectives, from a perspective of the 4 hour and from a perspective of the M15. We're gonna do the same to the bullish trend. Okay, so let's just quickly map this. Okay, so this is our what? This is our breakout structure. Okay, so breakout structure here, called breakout structure, and then we have our second breakout structure here. Okay, so I want you to, these are 4 hour breaks of structure. Okay, and then we have our last break of structure to the downside. Okay, cool. Now let's go in to the bullish trend. Okay, So before price came in to violate the previous lower high, this was our protected high. Okay, let's just be sure of that. So that means this was our swing high. Okay, this was our swing high. Means if price is to break this high, we now have a what? We now have a change of character. Okay, and then this was our swing low, because if this low gets violated, it changes into a what? Into a break of structure. Okay, so we said that whatever's happening in between the swing high and the swing low is the what? Is the internal structure. All right, but then what happens when price wants to change character? Price does not give you these realignments that we were getting before. The price just runs up, violating the previous swing high. Okay, and then what happens when price does that? We get we get a what? We get a change of character right here. Okay, change of character to the upside. Okay, and then this is our swing low. Okay, so I already mapped that. This is our swing low. Okay, so now what happens? Okay, now we are bullish. Okay, so now remember in the bearish, this was our protected high and then our targeted low. But now we're bullish, that means things are going to be different. This is now our targeted high. This is now our protected low. So protected, targeted. Okay, so when you are bullish, it doesn't matter if price comes down. This is normal. This is a pullback, right? This is the M15 creating a series of lower lows and lower highs in alignment to the 4-hour pullback. Okay, but then this low is protected. Okay, this low is protected. What does that mean? This means that whatever price does, price at some point needs to realign bullish to target this high. Why? Because we are expecting higher prices. And then what happens? And then when now the 4-hour wants to come in and give you a new higher high, the M15 realigns bullish. Okay? The M15 realigns bullish, meaning what? Meaning that the 4-hour now wants to give you a new higher high. Meaning that now the 4-hour wants to violate the previous higher high. Right? So price on the M15 gives us a realignment, a change of character to the upside, and then higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, until we violate the previous higher high. Okay, giving us a what? Giving us a new break of structure. Okay, right here, a new break of structure, and then the same thing happens over and over again. Right? But then, like I said before, price doesn't always give you the realignments that you are looking for to determine new higher lows or high highs. Price may just go from a series of higher lows, high highs to just boom down, and then again boom up again. So it's not always a price gives you, but then it's always your primary job to be there when price gives you these moves, because if you miss these moves, you may not get them because price manager may just do this in case of a news event. Price doesn't actually give you um, the standard price movement that you're looking for. So it's always the primary job of a trader to be there 24/7 to be able to capitalize on these moves. Okay, so this is reality market structure. So in the next video, we are going to be going into the charts themselves to be able to do these mappings on the real charts. Okay, so tune in because the next video is going to be a bomb. It's going to be fire. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and also do subscribe and hit the notification bell.